If I can get over 50 years worth of being a suicidal depressive in less than a year, then you can too. And I'll explain how I did in this and other videos I'm planning after I tell you about the experience that shocked me out of suicidal thoughts forever. My name's Fiona, and I'm more of an artist than a speaker, but just in case it helps anyone contemplating killing themselves, I have a warning. Suicide is a really bad idea. You will regret it if you do it. I know, 'cause I did. And how could I know I'd regret suicide after I was dead? You ever wondered about reincarnation? 'Cause after my experience, I don't doubt it exists. I'm living with the proof of my suicide from a past life. Reincarnation is a fact of life and death. It's a fact of existence. And this is about what happened to me to prove it. After being stuck in a long bout of deep suicidal depression, I had my suicide secretly all planned out. I asked the doctor for therapy and eventually received counselling, but it didn't help. So, through some last-minute searching on the internet for some answers and any reason to live, I discovered the late Dolores Cannon, a courageous lady who, working as a hypnotherapist in the 60s, accidentally discovered the past life of one of her clients. Under hypnosis, this client became a completely different personality, describing a different time and place, and they discovered the reasons for their issues. After the session, the client's problems disappeared, so Dolores developed the Quantum Health Hypnosis technique. And as a last resort, I decided to give it a go. The first part of this hypnosis technique is regression, and the second part is an opportunity for healing. You give yourself the answers to your own list of questions, which the practitioner reads out to you while you're in trance. Everything's recorded so you can replay it at home. It also works on healing physical problems, and I have a small tumour, mercifully non-malignant, lodged in my head just between my right ear and temple. It's not growing, we don't think, but it occasionally unbalances me, so I put it on my list. My hypnosis session brought up a life as an abducted slave boy in Egypt. And yes, making myself a slave to others seems to be a recurring issue in this life. I had nearly forgotten the tumour, but it was on my list of health issues, and as soon as the practitioner mentioned it, the words, "I shot myself," popped out of my mouth. I was so surprised and so shocked. Then I said, melancholia, which I think is the old-fashioned word for depression. It turns out I had committed suicide in a previous life, and I was still trying to do it in this one. The suicidal depression hadn't ended with me killing myself in that past life. I was going through it all over again, still dealing with depression and suicidal thoughts. I knew something crazily amazing had happened to me that day, but it was the reaction of the practitioner's cat that made sure I would never doubt it. When I first turned up for my session, the cat gave me such a dismissive look, cringed at my touch. But after my session, he was all over me, purring, rubbing his face on me. He even dug his claws into the chair to prevent his owner's attempts to move him away. They do say cats read people's energy, and I knew something major had changed in me in that hypnosis session, and that cat had sensed it. So, I committed suicide in a previous life. I had shot myself in the head, and in this life I have a small tumour the size of a bullet in my head just above my right ear. For me, this tumour is the embodiment of that bullet I'd put in my own head in that past life. It's certainly lodged in the right place for it. And I've spent most of my life battling suicidal thoughts. I was only about 9 years old when I first attempted suicide. Luckily at that age, I really hadn't a clue how to. It was a fair few decades before the internet, so I couldn't Google how to commit suicide. Unfortunately, in those days, child psychology wasn't of much interest in schools either, and it was assumed I was just being silly and I'd grow out of it. I continued to spend most of my adolescence praying not to wake up. I even tried to kill myself 2 more times. Now, when I look back at my mental turmoil and suffering, and that wish to die, it's definitely a continuation of that past life of melancholia. The suicidal depression hadn't all ended with me shooting myself in the head in that past life. And that discovery ended my death wish. Like a switch had flipped. I thought, sod that, I'm not going through all that crap all over again in another life. Suicide is not an option. I'm so determined not to go through another life of misery with another miserable end that I haven't allowed myself to get sad for any longer than half a day since then. My circumstances are the same. Nothing's changed but me. Nearly 2 years later, I'm a completely different person. And the pressure's off. There's no need to be so serious. Don't get it right in this life? I can always have another go in another life. But I'm going to make sure it's more joyful. So, whilst learning life's lessons, I'm going to enjoy myself along the way. As long as I avoid hurting anyone or anything else, and I'm kind and considerate, I'm determined to be happy. Being depressed doesn't help anyone, doesn't change anything. It won't save the planet or stop cruelty to animals and children. Mostly the people that bring us down don't really give a damn whether we live or die anyway. Being depressed can't change the past or improve the future, and if the universal law of attraction is right, it'll just attract more of the same, more stuff that makes us depressed. And I certainly did that. So trade in those unhappy, angry thoughts for uplifting ones. Dream of living in your perfect paradise, because if your thoughts and feelings possess the power of attraction, you really want them to be good ones. Because here's another warning. I learnt this one the hard way, a very hard way. If we don't value our life, we will attract those that don't value our lives, and attract situations to force us to value our lives, just like I did. I ended up with a bad man who made me fear for my life on a regular basis. While I was getting beaten up, I really thought I was going to die. Oh boy, after spending most of my youth wanting to die, I ended up begging for my life to be spared. I am so careful now with my thoughts and feelings, and I'm training to love myself a lot. No self-loathing allowed. It does seem a harsh system, but Dolores discovered through her hypnotised clients all saying the same thing. We choose our life experience before we incarnate. We know what we're letting ourselves in for, but when we're born, we forget. A veil of forgetfulness comes over us. Is that in the Bible? I control my emotions now. They don't control me. Thanks to what I learnt on the internet, I understand them so much better. Depression is not an illness like I always believed. It's an emotion. It's the opposite of happiness. But it can make us ill if we allow it to go on long enough. It can kill. There are creative and destructive emotions, and one of the most destructive for us is not anger, it's depression. I'm not alone in believing our emotions are indicators telling us what's good and bad for us, whether we're going in the right direction or the wrong direction, if there's something we need to change or move away from. Our emotions are our guidance system and vitally important. And now a disclaimer alert. I'm going to mention the bloody medication. I have a huge distrust of the pharmaceutical industry now and what they prescribe. But hey, what I've experienced is personal, so these opinions are my own. Years ago, I realised that the antidepressant pills from the doctor actually made me worse, more depressed. They ramped up my suicidal thoughts and gave me terrible, vivid nightmares that I still can't forget. They were horrible. And doctors gave my mum the exact same pills as painkillers for shingles, on top of morphine and many other chemical concoctions. My poor lovely mum slept through most of her life back then. Didn't even have a clue what day it was. It was like she had Alzheimer's, but she hasn't. Her health went downhill after that. Why do some doctors give you stuff that's just no good for you? These antidepressant drugs are highly addictive narcotics. The side effects listed are suicidal thoughts, depression, and psychosis. Would you go out and buy drugs from a dealer? Well, don't. Not even dope. I've witnessed permanent side effects and nasty personality changes caused by drugs. So I go for my natural highs, and I'm so happy I don't need drugs to get them. I discovered my happy pill, and it was sketching birds in nature. Even years before my Quantum Health Hypnosis Session, holidays by the sea, sketching birds and animals saved my life so many times. They rejuvenated my crushed and crumpled spirits in just a week. So find your drug-free happy pill. Even if you can, take a dose as soon as you start feeling the ache of sadness hitting you. There's also lots of help on the internet. It's my free counselling service. There's some excellent channels. I listen to Steve Noble's beautiful meditations every night now while going to sleep. He's even got a super quick pick-me-up meditation, which I do a lot. And astrology has amazed me. Occasionally I'll be in a mood, and listening to astrologers describing the planets causing certain issues, I'll realise that that's exactly me and my issues. So lots of us are in the same mood at the same time. We're all in it together. Search the internet for your favourite soul saviours. I've added a long list of mine below in the notes in case you're interested. But basically my rule for following people on social media is don't listen to the ones that make you feel frightened, mad and sad. Worrying and getting angry about what's happening around the world won't make a positive difference, but staying upbeat in your world can. I'd say it took me only about 6 months to get to understand my emotions, and about a year of practice to feel I was controlling them and not my emotions controlling me. Like I said before, if I can get over 50 years of being a suicidal depressive in less than a year, then you can too. I don't feel as much guilt anymore. I really tried my best to be good and put others' needs before my own, but denying myself of my needs nearly killed me, and there's a lesson. We are each responsible for ourselves, individually, for our own behaviour, how we treat ourselves, others and everything, how we treat all life on earth and the earth herself. Feeling helpless as I witness beautiful life on our planet. Hi, Carly. Feeling helpless as I witness the beautiful life on our planet suffer because of our human race. I would really get depressed. But now I know we all have the power to save the planet. And it's happening. It is happening. Loads of people are avoiding plastic, giving up meat and being consciously aware of their purchases, spending and investing ethically, choosing only renewable energy suppliers. That's not nuclear, potential bombs in a cyber attack, and the worst waste ever. Protesting with our pennies is working. Hitting the polluting industries and suppliers where it hurts them most, in their pockets. If we all use the universal law of attraction together, we could co-create an earth where every single soul lives in peace and abundance, in harmony with nature and our gorgeous Mother Earth. So imagine the Garden of Eden as much as possible, instead of fearing disaster. And I'm not alone in believing the Earth is so much more than a lifeless lump of rock. In fact, Dolores discovered through her clients, everything has consciousness. That's how brilliant life is. And there are people out there who connect with all this consciousness, with all life, and I'm sure one day we will too. We'll be receiving new teachings, a quantum physics for the mind, new healing methods for the body, and a greater understanding of our souls. So please, if you are feeling like I used to, suicidal and depressed, please don't go now. Even if you lose everything, it's really never the end. Never ever. The world, the earth, really needs people like us, especially now, because people like us would rather hurt ourselves than anyone or anything else. Because we are good, sensitive, caring people, and it's not our fault we've been scoring so low on the emotional guidance scale. We didn't know. We've not been taught about the power of emotions, that they can make us ill or rejuvenate us, that they can attract good or bad stuff, and that our emotions actually do physically affect everyone and everything around us. But awareness and knowledge is easily available on the internet, and there's more and more of it coming online now. I informed myself and thankfully found Dolores Cannon, and it's enriched and transformed. It's transforming my life. So don't leave the world now, because it is changing for the better, and it is happening really quickly. I believe we're experiencing the birth pains of a new, better era, and I'm happy I'm alive now, because I wouldn't want to miss this for the world. And something else started happening to me and my partner to prove I wasn't hallucinating and had completely lost it. And I hope it happens to you too, because it's loads of fun. Once I decided to control my emotions and gain a deeper understanding of my mind, body and soul, and book myself a Quantum Health Hypnosis Session, these weird synchronicities started happening nearly all the time, as if the universe was giving me the thumbs up, letting me know I was on the right track. I can't explain the synchronicity thing. It's unexplainable. It's like magic. But I do know it's happening to more and more people all over the world. So something very special is going on right now. But ultimately, it was the late Dolores Cannon who really changed my life. Her quantum health hypnosis technique changed me. And I believe in its effectiveness so much, I've just become a practitioner myself. We all need to have a dream to strive for. And my dream is to have a small retreat practicing on the UK coast in the places that saved my life, especially sea houses near the Farne Islands in Northumberland. Most of the images I've added were taken or painted around here and in Snettisham, Norfolk, and Flamborough in Yorkshire. I would love to show others who are feeling like I used to how to get out of that deep, dark hole of hopeless depression and treat them with my greatest natural antidepressants, showing them how to paint the wonderful wildlife by the sea, just in case it helps them out of their darkness too. I'm not a doctor, nor a psychiatrist. The views I've expressed are all my own, drawn from my own experience and methods that stopped me from thinking about suicide and helped me cope and understand the life I'm living now. But if you knew that if you commit suicide, you would have to live a whole other life of similar experiences till you get it right, you'd flippin' stick this one out and do whatever it takes to make it work. For me, being happy is what makes life worth living. Not being super rich nor famous, just happy. And I know so many simple, healthy ways that make me happy. Maybe you, like the rest of my family and some of my friends, might think I'm suffering from delusional thoughts. Well, I like these thoughts much better than the old suicidal ones I used to have. I would rather live a life of delusional bliss than that dark prison of depression when I didn't want to live at all. I've learnt it doesn't matter what anyone else believes about you. It's what you believe about yourself that counts. And finally, I wish you much happiness too. May you find your joy in this life. It's up to you, no one else. So go get it.